What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be analysing some of the tweets from Lee Mather, who is the creative director for the F1 games, and this is going to be a bit of a homage back to my older videos, because back in the day you had to kind of source out your own information for the new F1 game yourself, and going to like the staff members of Cody's was probably like the best way of doing that. So this is a bit of a throwback here. So I'm going to leave a link to Lee Mather's Twitter down in the description. Go check him out. He answers a lot of questions from the public, so if you have any questions about F1 2017, then he's pretty much your best guy to go to. And I'd say that Paul Gilles is also a really good source to go to as well. If you want to find out any news about F1 2017, if they can say it, then those guys are the guys who will say anything. But yeah, let's get into the tweets and find out some new information about F1 2017, which isn't, widely known within the public, but it's still public information because Lee has already tweeted it. So let's go on with the first tweet, and this one comes from a question from Groundhog69, and he says, "Is there anything else that has been improved in the damage model for F1 2017 besides the tyre tethers?" Lee then responds saying that you can get punctures from running over debris, tyre damage from scrubbing walls or any other kind of objects, and he also says that you get engine and gearbox management, kind of issues when you have a lot of contact in the body of the car. Like we see in real life. Now, to add to this, we experienced this in the beta, or not the beta, the testing, the pre-alpha testing that we did back in February. And one of the things that we got from our testing is we found that the punctures were far too sensitive, and because of our testing, they wound back the amount of punctures that you would get, because sometimes you would rub up against AI, and almost every time you would get a puncture just from very, very light contact. So that has been rectified. I don't even know if you can get punctures from rubbing AI cars anymore. That might have been changed, so we'll have to have another go at F1 2017 to see whether that is in the final version of the game. But yes, you now have to avoid any kind of debris on the road. So if there's carbon fiber, any kind of gravel is fine. I think you can run through grass and gravel, and I think that's still fine. But yeah, just if you see any kind of debris on the racing line or on the track, avoid that like the plague, because that's going to give you punctures. And sometimes you don't see it coming. You might get a yellow flag, and you have to be very alert now. When you see a local yellow, you go, okay, is there anything on the road? Because if there is, that could ruin my race, like in real life. So a lot more care has to be taken, and it's really good to see that there is finally some improvement to the damage model, because it's been pretty stagnant for a few years. Tyre tethers has really been the latest addition in F1 2016, so it's great to see that there's a lot more realism in things that can happen to your car, especially with rubbing walls. Just touching a wall as well can give you some punctures, so watch out for that, especially at Monaco. Moving on to the next tweet now. I think I was talking for a few minutes there, so I'm going to try and run through the tweets a lot quicker than when I did that first one. But I made a tweet the other day saying the goal for my league race is to have a clean one, and then this guy called Nightmare FRL says fix the side pod glitch and tags Lee Mather in it, and then Lee Mather then goes to confirm that car-to-car collisions in F1 2017 have been sorted, so there's not going to be the side pod glitch. Apparently there isn't going to be that really weird lag thing that just sends you into a barrier as soon as you get side by side with another car. So that is really promising. So hopefully it can mean we can race a little bit harder with people, both online and offline, and not be worried about spinning out aggressively or being taken out by lag. So far, from what I've tested in the F1 2017 beta, the online beta, you can run side by side with people from other countries, which is very promising, because in 2016 you can barely race side by side with someone in the same country as you. But okay, next tweet we've got from Formula 1 Centre, basically asking if you can use the number 1 on your car after winning the championship, and now that is possible. One of my biggest gripes with F1 2016 is winning the championship and not having much to show for it. Now you can have the number 1 on the side of the car, and that on the front nose of the car, and maybe on the driver's suit. I'm not entirely sure, but at least you can have the number 1 and something to show for your efforts after winning the championship. Kima84 asks Lee Mather, is it possible to change the helmet design from Season 1 to Season 2? And Lee basically confirms that you can change the helmet anytime you want. Now that's pretty awesome on a customization level kind of things. I think in F1 2016 you couldn't change your helmet at all, or the appearance of your driver at all. So if you picked a helmet and you didn't like it from the start, then you're pretty much stuck with that helmet until the end of the game, or until you restarted the career mode. So it's nice to see that both in real life, I think the rules have been relaxed on the helmet changing rules, and also in the game they've reflected that. And I saw another tweet from Lee. He said basically he didn't want to restrict players from changing their helmets if they so wanted to do that themselves. But moving on to the next tweet, and this is from Phil FPS, and he asks, would love to know in this career mode if you can select engines and what you want to use in the races and practice sessions. And to add to that, do we get 4 engines like in real life? Would be great if you could reply excited about the game. Lee then says, yes, you can go back to using old units or old parts. So just like in real life, you have 4 engine units or power units to use across the course of the season, and you've got to balance those out, using, fresh engines at tracks that are, power dependent. And when you get a power unit that's kind of getting to the end of its life, you've kind of got to offload that and get onto a new one, and make the most of the power units that you do have. So yeah, that element is now in the game, and it's going to be important for people to, when you get to a practice session, switch out onto like an old power unit, and make sure that if you're possibly running with really old parts in your car, that you use those in practice, so that if you do get a failure or any kind of reliability problem, you want it to happen in practice. You don't want to be coming into a race where your engine is at like 50% and then have the risk of it conking out or having massive performance issues. So there's that management element in the game as well. And if my memory serves me correctly, for people who don't want to deal with that, the game can do that for you if you delegate it or if you run on a lower difficulty. I'm not entirely sure, but that managerial aspect or team manager aspect is there in the game, and that's really cool to see that is there as well. So too with the gearbox management as well. You can get grid penalties for switching out gearboxes too often. Like, you have to use the gearbox for a certain amount of races, and if you switch it early, then you get a grid penalty just like in real life. Flavio says, will the new F1 2017 game run on 4K 60 FPS on the PS4 Pro? Yes, it will, according to Lee, and so too will the Xbox One X. So if you want to run 60 FPS and 4K, then consoles is the way to go. And if you have a really high-end PC, then that might also be possible. So the new F1 game is going to look absolutely sick in 4K, and so smooth at 60 FPS as well. Maybe even higher if you have like SLI or something crazy like that. So really looking forward to seeing what the game looks like on my new PC. I've recently done a PC build myself, so really excited for when the game comes out eventually. Jack asks, can you choose a team in F1 2017, or do you have to start at the bottom like in previous F1 games? Lee basically goes on to confirm that you can choose any team that you want. Just like in F1 2016, they all have different expectations placed upon your results, depending on which team you go with. So if you go with Mercedes, then it's going to be excessively hard to impress the team and make sure that you keep your place within that team. Whereas if you go with a low team like Sauber, McLaren, or anything like that, then it's quite easy to overperform and make sure that you stay within the team, because they obviously have much lower expectations. Like if you get like a points finish over the course of one season, I think the team would be ecstatic with you, because points finishes don't come across all too often when it comes to the slower teams in Formula 1. Pedro asks, the classic cars, will they have equal performance? No, according to Lee, but you can race a full grid at the same time, so that's totally equal. So if you want to have a full grid of classic cars, then your best bet is to make sure that everyone jumps in the exact same car, whether that be the 2002 Ferrari, the 2008 McLaren, and make sure everyone has the same car. That way it is absolutely 100% perfect in terms of equal cars, and you can have a league that way. I think there will be a lot of classic car leagues forming on F1 2017, and I think it's going to be quite exciting to see which ones are the best and which cars provide the best racing. Daniel Richardson says, what happens when you use all of your available parts in one season? Do you get grid penalties, disqualifications, race bans? And Lee says, basically you get grid penalties, and it depends on when you change them. You can swap parts in sessions, but these use up time. So when I was going through a career mode in the pre-alpha beta or the pre-alpha version of the game, if you switch like an engine, like in Practice 3, then you're cutting it quite fine when you get to qualifying, whether you're going to have those brand new engine parts. Sometimes if you have too much things to change, then you can actually eat into your session time when you get to the next session. So it's quite critical that you change your components at the right time, otherwise you'll be costing yourself some track time. Again, another question for classic cars. This one comes from Richie Davey. He says, how is the classic cars going to work? Will there be an equal cars option, or are you going to have to race 20 of the same car? Lee then basically says you can't do equal cars, simply because the cars are from different years, different eras, and it's going by how different the cars are, it's going to be near impossible for those guys to make them equal. So what you can do is you can have all of the same car or all of the same class. Now, a class of cars is like different cars from a similar kind of year group, or ones that are similarly based on pace. Like there are going to be some cars like the 95 Ferrari, which are much slower than say the 2008 McLaren, for example. So there's going to be almost like a Le Mans kind of race where you have two different classes, or maybe even more different classes of classic cars, and it's your goal to make sure you beat everyone within your class to get the race win, which is quite interesting, something we've not seen in F1 games, and it's certainly going to make for some interesting viewing when it comes to online races and online videos, that's for sure. The next tweet comes in from Jack, and he says, because of the engine management feature in F1 2017, can you get grid penalties if you change too many units? Lee then says basically yes, rules are in the sport, so they're going to correspond with the game as well, and you can swap individual elements like we said, within the power unit, like MGUH, MGUK, all that kind of thing. So the turbos, or anything you want within, I think there's 5-ish different parts that you can swap within the power unit. And then there was another question asked, is there a limit on parts, or can you use as many as you want? And then Lee basically says it's limited as per the rules. Now, there's different ways you can interpret this, and what I don't really know is whether you can use a 5th power unit. He said that the parts are limited. Are they limited to 4 parts though? Like, surely you could use a 5th, maybe 6th. That's how you get the grid penalties. But I don't know. Hopefully we can use a 5th and a 6th and get fresh power unit parts. But something tells me that you might only get limited to 4. And the only way you can get like grid penalties is maybe switching too many parts in a race weekend, or switching the gearbox. But that's something that kind of needs clarification, and something that we may not find out about until we try the full game for ourselves. Bloke91 says, how does the pit mechanism work this year? Do we get a pit limiter and manual control? Now this one is very, very exciting, because Lee has just given us a new feature that it's going to be in F1 2017. He says limiter for the exit and entrance, plus similar to the race start for exiting the box. So now when you make a pit stop, you have to brake and slow down for the pit lane, press a button to make sure that you stick to the pit limiter, just like in F1 2010, and then when you leave the pit lane, press a button to rejoin back at to full race pace. But the challenging thing is, after you have your tyres changed, you then have to engage the clutch, engage first gear, and then take off like you normally would for a race start. Now I tried this, and it was a little bit clunky at the time, but it was actually quite hard to get the car going and time it right with the car landing back on the ground. So there's a lot of time to be gained and lost by stuffing up the taking off in your pit box. So I'm really keen to see how this feature works in the full version of the game, and it's going to be crucial for making up time on your competitors. If you get it right. If you get it wrong, then yeah, you can lose a lot of time, and I'm really excited for that. Westy GB says, will there be any gameplay of F1 2017 like there was last year? Lee then confirms we have multiple videos lined up. Now, I don't think this is going to be gameplay in the conventional sense, like how myself or any other F1 YouTubers will just upload a raw gameplay. I think this will kind of be like the Verstappen gameplay that we saw at Silverstone, where they have a driver driving the game themselves. They give their live commentary feedback of the game, and mix it up with lots of graphics, lots of different camera angles, make it all artsy and fancy, and I think that is kind of the gameplay reveals we're going to see for F1 2017 up until launch. Now, I don't have any official confirmation from Codemasters themselves, but this is just me guessing. I think all the gameplay videos are going to be a similar format to the one we've already seen with Max Verstappen. Now, I think that might be all of the tweets. Yes, it is. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed, and hopefully you guys have learned something, or are excited about something for F1 2017. Just thought I'd do the research and dig up some extra information about F1 2017 that I think the vast majority of you guys wouldn't really know about. There's a massive audience on YouTube, but not too many people follow us over to Twitter and really get involved with the community. I feel like the more hardcore people into the game and in league racing spend most of their time on Twitter, and that is where you can get a lot of information very quickly. So if you don't have Twitter, I recommend you go get it. Just sign up to the website, follow me, follow any other F1 YouTubers, and especially follow the guys at Codemasters, because like I said, they do talk about the game, they answer your questions, and if you just look at their replies, you can see their answers to other people's tweets and questions, and that way you can find out your own information about F1 2017 before any kind of news drops. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more F1 gaming videos. And as I make this video now, less like 1 month and 1 day till F1 2017, I'm very excited. Hopefully you guys are too. A lot long to go now. So yeah, just counting down the days now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next video, guys, I'll see you next time.